I think I mentioned before that prior to being a psychologist, I was a nurse. And as a nurse, I was working in the neonatal unit. And I loved my job there. I got to see a lot of parents. I got to counsel them. And that's the inspiration that I became a counselor later because of those parents I got to talk with. But while I was in my training for counseling, I also worked part-time in a pediatric ICU, and I saw so much child abuse come in, children that had been slammed up against the wall and hurt. And then later I went into and specialized in crisis management with children and families. And that was my first internship at Houston Child Guidance. And again, I got to see many parents who were overwhelmed, who should have never been parents, and the results of their poor little children. I have a bias. I love kids. I absolutely adore them. I have two children, but my bias does not cloud my rational that having kids is a huge undertaking. It's exhausting. And it's not like adopting a pet or something like that. A child is an investment in a soul. You're actually co-creating with your partner and God and life to create this incredible, miraculous being. And I think in order to have children, you have to think about, how do I know what should be things that I look for? I was looking the other day, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't have kids. I mean, you can find it all over. But reasons to have kids, you don't see much about it. And I think a lot of it is because it is subjective. Everybody has different feelings about it, and cultures and religions really do influence those ideas and decisions. I came from a huge family. My mother had 9 children, and she thought everyone was a blessing. And, I ended up having 2. Some of my brothers and sisters had more, but basically I've been grateful and blessed for my kids every day. But I was one of those women that I didn't think I needed kids. I mean, this is the thing, when I got married, my husband wanted kids. I wasn't sure I really needed that to feel fulfilled. And so I didn't have kids right away. And I think that was a saving grace in my marriage because I got to know my husband and prioritize us before we had a child. And I think that's very helpful. But I'm going to give you what I consider psychologically well thought out, emotionally healthy reasons to have children. And the first of those is having children is the best investment you'll ever make. We know now from new research that it's not the material wealth that matters. It's what you invest in your relationships, and investing in co-creating a child and raising that child and teaching that child and loving that child is the absolute most meaningful thing you can do in life, in my opinion. Secondly, having kids allows you to have old selfish habits die. In other words, a child will teach you every area that you're selfish in. And if you feel like you've been living a hedonistic life, sooner or later, you're going to get sick of that, or you're going to have an awakening. Like, what am I doing? What am I giving? Who am I teaching? Who am I training? And if you're one of those people that you're terrified of the birth process, consider adopting. We have so many kids who need a good home. The most important thing, though, is that you realize you want a child because it's going to add meaning, but you're going to have to give up your selfishness, and you will find it. If you say, I'm the most giving person ever, just wait. Thirdly, it develops character. I think that children force us to grow in a way that is impossible if you don't have children. I just believe it's impossible to go through the personal growth children teach you. Children have been my greatest teachers all through my career and in my personal life. I think they're wise. I think they're straight from God. Their soul is. And especially under the age of 6, I think they are miracles, and I truly believe that. Fourthly, I think a good reason is children are a blessing. And when my mother used to say that, I didn't really understand. Like, I thought she was saying, well, our family's getting blessed. We must be good by God. But what she was saying was much deeper than that. What she was saying, a child is a blessing because it's not only your child. In fact, it's only yours for a little while to protect and take care of. When they grow up, think of the numerous people your child is going to touch and bless and grace because they're born. When you start thinking about this globally, you develop a new awareness like, oh my goodness, this is an undertaking not only to change my life, but in a sense to change the world, and you're very right about that. Fifth, having children adds meaning. Until you watch a child attached to a doll or a frog, a stuffed frog or an animal, you take these things for granted. You see them and you think they're cute, but when you see that attachment develop and how much they love whatever they're attached to, whether it's a blankie or whatever, it makes you a better person. You get empathic. You put yourself in their place. You're afraid to wash it during the day because you don't want them to have to separate from it. I remember fondly that when my youngest daughter needed eye surgery, she was so attached to this unicorn that the surgeons actually took it to surgery with her and put this sterile wrap over it because they too got that meaning. Like, it's a meaningful endeavor when you have children. You learn how they feel. You learn about feelings. You have to go back and relearn your own feelings. And maybe it takes the jaded edge off of all of us. Fifth, having children is more interesting than anything else you can do. There is no video game or board game or anything else I would rather do than invest my time with a child. Because if you listen to them, if you put your phone away, they're full of wisdom and just curious insights that I've never been able to find anywhere else. Having a child is something you do to better society. It actually is going to make the world a better place as long as you're invested in raising it to think of others, to serve others, to understand that part of life is painful, but a big part of it is joyful too. I think it's a good thing to give the world if you can give the world a very good child, a very good person. And you can do that because children are influenced 98% by their parents. Having children is not only beneficial to society, but it's beneficial to maybe saving the earth. If you have a child and you teach them about resources and you teach them about Mother Nature and how important picking up is, and you get them in line with reusing what they can, staying away from plastics, which are all things you can do. You can expose them to these things. You can change your life to be a better person because you had a child. And that's many times what was my motivating factor. When I was feeling down, I told myself, having these girls is changing me into a better person. And I learned that because they really are. They're really better than us as they're growing up, especially when they're influenced and mentored by us. And as I said, the bottom line is having a child is an investment you have to make. I would never make it alone. I would never try to do it haphazardly. I would pray about it. I would think about it. I would not feel pressured about it. But at the end of the day, when I had my child, it would be because I had thought it over and I had committed to being the best parent I could be. You're not going to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. But I once read something that I hope you can read or at least take comfort from. You only have to be a good parent 60% of the time, and the child forgives you the other 40%. So I hope this helps you in evaluating whether or not you think you're ready to have a child.